He was crying. At some point, I couldn't take it. Like, I was literally in tears. I was just holding his legs down, and my eyes were like this. I was just crying. Hi guys, my name is Chike-James and you're welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time of coming here, you're very much welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for coming back. I'm a mom YouTuber based in Abuja and I film about motherhood, faith and family. Today I'll just be diving straight into this video. Today I'll be just about my experience from my own angle during my son's circumcision. So for the benefit of those who don't know, circumcision is basically and simply put the cutting off of the foreskin of the male private parts. I think that's simple enough. In a layman's term, it's just the cutting off of the foreskin, like the first initial skin in a male baby's private parts. And there are two methods of doing this. There's the manual method where you like use a surgical scissors or surgical blade, I don't know what it's called, to like cut off that skin gradually. Then the second method is the method where you use a ring. I think that's the modern method for doing that now, where you use a ring you put on the ring. I've never even seen that before. I've only heard of it, but I've never seen it before. But it's basically using a ring. You put it on the male child's private part, and then with time the ring falls off with the flesh. I think so. If I'm wrong, please correct me down below. So this is not even what this story is about. I'm not about to lecture about circumcision because I don't know anything about circumcision. I'm about to share my experience with my two boys. So when my first son was going to be circumcised, it was an elderly woman. That's the same elderly woman that was in labor room with me when I had him is the same elderly woman that circumcised him. So usually circumcision is done 8 days after the birth of the baby. So on that day, I can't forget, for my son it was on a Sunday, and even for my second son it was also on a Sunday. It's just a coincidence. And we went back to the hospital where we had him for that surgery. It's like a minor surgery. It's nothing like serious. In less than 20 or 30 minutes it will be over. At least that was what I thought. And then when we got there, so the lady told us that, it's something minor, it's not something serious, that I could come if I wanted to observe and see what they were doing, and that the baby would be out in a short while. I couldn't handle it. I got there and I saw all the surgical blades. They laid him on, on a little table, and as they were just preparing to start it, I couldn't hold it. And thankfully, my mother-in-law was there. So I'm like, you know what, let me just stay downstairs and wait. When you're done, just call me. I'll come upstairs. So I was downstairs and I was hearing my baby cry and scream. And, he was just crying on the top of his voice. I was just heartbroken. Like, I didn't know what to do. I didn't want to go upstairs to see anything. I was just pacing around downstairs in the reception, moving back and forth, wondering what could be going on. And then finally, about 20-25 minutes later, my mother-in-law calls me on the phone and she's like, okay, I can come upstairs now and breastfeed the baby. So I came upstairs and he was literally red, because he was really very fair when he was a baby, and he had cried for so long, for 20 minutes non-stop, or even 30 minutes. He was red. I'm like, oh my God. So you would know that he had really cried and it was really painful. So I just breastfed him and managed him. Like, I kept on breastfeeding him just to soothe him and so that he wouldn't cry again. And yes, that was it. So I wasn't in the theater for him to see how everything went, but when I came and I saw him, I knew that whatever happened there was not a joke. Okay, so but the main body of the story is with my second son, because I went there with my husband, just me, my husband, and the baby. When we got to the hospital, it was still, I also used an elderly woman, and I don't know if I mentioned earlier, I prefer to use the manual method because I've heard lots of scary stories about that ring method. People that use the ring method, sometimes it doesn't just work well, sometimes it doesn't follow, it starts eating into the skin. Like, I've just heard a lot of scary stories about it. So I just always prefer to use the manual method. And I like to go for these elderly matrons because I feel like they are very experienced. They have, circumcised for a lot of babies, so they are very experienced. It's one thing to have the knowledge, it's another thing to have the experience. So for these older matrons, they have the knowledge and the experience. So that's why I like to use them. So let me know in the comment section, what method did you use for your son? Did you use the manual method or the ring method? And what method do you really think is better? Yeah, just share with us in the comment section. So back to my story now. So when we got there was nobody. It was just me and my husband. So the matron was like, you know what, you're going to hold this boy's legs. I'm like, what? Me that I wasn't even planning to sit in the car, and when people are done, you come and call me. She was like, there's nobody here to help, I just have to come and hold down the baby's leg, because it was on a Sunday. We actually booked, for that appointment, and she has like a little clinic where she does that, which is not like the main hospital where she works. So initially I thought it was something they would just cut, like cut, you know how you cut the paper, just cut it off, and then the baby will just cry once and for all, and then we'll leave. But I was so wrong, because that is not how it goes. They take time to cut it. Like, the perfect illustration will be that Squid Game. It's just like you're trying to carefully cut out a shape without cutting into the shape. That's the best way I can explain it. So they were taking their time to cut it so that it would be neat, and then they were just taking their time. And the woman would cut, the matron, because she's a matron, she would cut, and then she would check and cross-check just to make sure that it was properly cut. Why this whole thing, this cutting and checking was going on, of course, the baby was busy screaming on the top of his voice. He was crying. At some point, I couldn't take it. Like, I was literally in tears. I was just holding his legs down, and my eyes were like this. I was just crying. I couldn't take it. Like, he was crying, and baby is just 8 days old. He was crying. He turned red. He was crying. Oh my God. Circumcision. After that day, I understood that popular saying that to be a man is not a day's job. It is not, though. Any place you see a man, respect. Even a 2-year-old boy has gone through circumcision and deserves that respect. Like, it was so painful. So at some point, I almost was upset with the matron. I'm like, can you just hurry up? Must you keep going back and looking at this? Can you cut off this once and for all? This baby is in pain, But the woman is experienced, and she understood. She was just smiling. She was like, calm down. This is the normal procedure. Would you like to bring him back again? Maybe because his skin is covering where he's not supposed to. Just calm down. Let me do once and for all. And of course, my husband was just telling the woman, please don't mind her. Just take your time and do this thing once and for all, so that do what you have to do, so that when we leave here, we don't have to come back, and just make it clean and neat. I was just restless. I'm like, God, can somebody else come and hold? Because I need to leave this place. But there was no other person. My husband couldn't hold him either. He was just there, but he couldn't be the one holding him down. So I was the one holding him down with all the blood and everything. I was just there. I couldn't do anything. Joys of motherhood, right? So after that, the woman eventually finished, and yes, we left for the house. He was just crying. Thank God for breast milk. So I breastfed him all the way back to the house, and when we got home, we opened up his diaper. Of course, they covered the wound, the fresh wound, with like something that looked like a gauze, and then we bought ampicillin, either ampicillin or Vestin, I can't remember which now. And then the woman instructed that we should keep on applying it there. We shouldn't let it go dry. And yes, which was what I did. I just kept on applying it, and I wasn't closing his diaper. So when I wear him his diaper, I just let the sides loose. I just opened it so that air could come in. Motherhood is not easy, period. Like, it's not easy, no matter how you want to look at it. It's just God that gives us the grace to be able to pull through. So there was this thing they also said that urine would help the healing. So we should just not be bothered if his pee and the urine touches that area, that it's okay. We should just keep on applying penicillin and making sure it's properly moisturized, and yes, to avoid contamination or anything like that, and which we continue doing. But it heals so fast, because after the first 24 hours it starts bringing out like white slimy stuff. I believe is I don't know what that is. I'm not in the medical field, but once that thing is done coming off, by the second day the wound is now like getting smoother. By the third day is smooth, like the surface is now smooth. By 1 week, like, it will be almost totally healed, or if not totally healed, and you forget about the whole pain. But I would never forget my experience. That day I felt like literally jumping out of my skin and jumping out of that theater, but there was nothing I could do. If I leave my baby, who will hold him? So I had to be there to the end. So share with us in the comments section, what was your experience like circumcising your son? Were you there? How did you feel? Like, was it exciting for you? Were you crying? Did you break down? Were you able to endure it and chest it out? Let's know how it went for you. Share with us in the comment section. And what method did you use? Did you use the ring method? Did you use the manual method, and why? So this will be the end of this story time. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for your love and your support. I appreciate, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.